Give me one reason why I shouldn't call Martin right now.
You violated the truce.
I'm not going anywhere.
Martin!
I think you might have to speak up a little.
Back in the car, driver.
Movie starts when Jay Perez shows up to get his girlfriend, Maria, from a laundromat. Jay notices a fancy car called a Maserati following them while they're in the car. Jay seems freaked out when he sees it, like he knows the car and hates it. And then, bam! They both freeze and Jay whips out a gun. Victor, the vampire with blonde hair, is the one driving the Maserati. As soon as the light goes green, Jay floors it and speeds away. Jay jumps out of the car and tells Maria to get out of there in the car. He goes into the basement and finds 3 people, all bleeding and hanging upside down. Just as Maria was about to start the car, someone broke the window out of nowhere. Jay heard the noise but couldn't track down Maria. Benny, the main character, was knocked out in class. Benny is a cool dude who lives with his grandma and studies economics. He loves making music in his free time, and he's really good at it. His grandma, Abuela, loves cooking for him. Benny's room is all about skating and Naruto. While he was making music, he overheard his brother Jay on the phone. Jay usually chauffeurs fancy folks, but he's got other stuff going on today. Benny needed money, so he wanted to work for Jay. At first, Jay was hesitant, but he decided to give Benny a shot. He handed Benny the keys to his fancy black Cadillac Escalade. Benny's job was to chauffeur people around. You can start it with a simple button. Benny had to pretend to be Jay since he was taking his place. Benny was stoked to drive such a sweet car and rock a fancy costume. He looked as happy as a kid on Christmas morning. Benny went to this huge house in the evening to pick up his clients, and he was freaking out because he wanted to come off as a professional. Out of nowhere, this gorgeous redhead appeared. Benny totally mistook Zoe for Blair. Blair and Zoe were buddies. Benny embarrassed himself when Blair saw him fly down, and he didn't even know he had to open the car door for her. He had no clue how to act. You can totally tell it was his first time driving people. Finally, we meet Zoe Moreau. She's a bit of a character, aggressive but classy. Benny's job was to take the girls to 5 different places until morning. When they were in the car, the girls wanted to play a game with Benny. They were like, "Yo, what would you do if tonight was your last night?" Blair and Zoe were expecting something spectacular, but Benny said he was a pretty chill guy and didn't have any particular fantasies. Zoe asked him who he was planning to kill, her, Blair, or his grandmother. Benny tried to sound professional but ended up joking that he'd kill Zoe. Benny couldn't take his eyes off Blair during the whole ride. He was really into her. They got to their first stop, a masked party. The girls whipped out an amulet with a red stone before going into the mansion. So, it looks like you can only pass if you had one like that. Meanwhile, Jay was figuring out how to deal with the vampire problem. On the same night, Victor had started a war. Since the girls weren't back yet, Benny decided to get out of the car and get some air. Guess what? He found the same amulet they had. The girls left the mansion and went to their next stop. They parked underground, and just like before, Benny had to wait for them. Benny saw that Zoe forgot her phone in the car. He also saw that she got a text from Victor asking for Jay. At that point, it was weird for Benny because he was Jay for the night. Benny tried to call Jay right after, but he didn't pick up. He thought it was weird and started snooping in Zoe's purse. He found a bunch of money with bloodstains in the middle of the bag. As he touched and counted the money, he accidentally got blood on his face and shirt collar. And if that wasn't bad enough, a cop showed up in the parking lot. Benny didn't wait long. He got out of the car and started running inside where the girls went. It seemed like a hotel. When Benny walked in, the concierge noticed how freaked out he looked, all sweaty and with a blood stain on his shirt. She was about to call security, but then she saw the amulet in his hand and everything changed. The concierge started apologizing right away, and Benny tried to act like he really had the amulet. The concierge walked Benny to the elevator and reminded him to be responsible, not just with the drinks. Benny freaked out when he walked in and saw Blair and Zoe sucking blood from 2 dudes' necks. Zoe, with blood in her mouth, grabbed Benny and started scaring the crap out of him. Then Benny admits he's not Jay, he's actually his brother. Zoe wants to suck his blood because he's useless. But Blair convinces her that Benny will take them to Jay. Out of nowhere, one of the dudes woke up. This party was totally planned, and they totally volunteered to be vampire snacks. They were getting paid to feed vampires their blood. But Zoe went a bit crazy and offed one of them. Without hesitation, she told Blair to take care of the second guy while Benny made a dash for it. But as soon as he got outside, the same officer he had escaped from earlier caught up with him. Benny's freaking out, telling him everything, but the officer couldn't care less. Actually, he wanted to arrest him and take him away, but then those two girls finished dinner and interrupted him. It seemed like the girls and the officer were familiar with each other. He was aware that they were vampires. The officer let Benny go after a quick chat, but when he tried to text someone, Zoe saw and smashed his phone. Meanwhile, Victor was chilling in his fancy mansion, sipping on fresh blood. He had some peeps locked up in the basement, hooked up to machines that were drawing their blood. They were knocked out in glass boxes. After getting a taste of blood, Victor hops in his Maserati to visit some special peeps. At that moment, Benny was in the car with the two girls and attempted to escape again. He took off his belt, got out of the car, and was totally surprised by Zoe, who seemed to appear out of nowhere. Victor paid a visit to Grace and Eva, these two vampire bosses in the city. Victor actually worked for them. The girls, Grace and Eva, were with Martin, another boss in LA. The girls know Victor messed up in Boyle Heights and took out Maria, Jay's girl. Now, the girls gotta figure out how to punish Victor for breaking the peace pact that's been going on for years. Grace said Victor's gonna be banned from the town for a while, but the girls didn't see it coming when Victor said he ain't going anywhere. Then, he spilled the beans about his plan to conquer all of LA. Eva immediately tried to call Martin, but little did they know that Victor had already offed him. Victor yanked out Martin's ear like Mike Tyson, and they were in shock. They were both killed by Victor, and no one could do anything about it. Meanwhile, Benny and the girls stopped at a market. Zoe went out to buy something, and Benny was freaking out in the car while Blair tried to chill him out. She let him in on the secret that vampires and humans share this town and follow some rules. By the way, she mentioned that Zoe is Victor's girlfriend. Blair and Zoe handled the cash for various businesses and blood clubs. Victor, with a strong desire for power, had been planning this night for a while. He's planning to off all 5 city leaders so he can have total control. Blair also says that Jay, Benny's bro, runs at Boyle Heights, and Victor wanted to manipulate him to betray the city leaders. Victor offered Maria to get a rise out of Jay, but Benny ended up showing up instead.
Hey, no, you can't smoke that in here. It's gonna...
That's funny.
Benny was gonna take the girls to his brother. There's definitely something between Benny and Blair. They're getting closer. Meanwhile, Jay got his crew together to hunt vampires. They showed up at Gio's fancy LA mansion. Gio tells Jay that Blair and Zoe showed up at his party and made a ton of money, and they completely drained him, so he was in dire need of a drink.
Give me some blood.
Blair and Zoe let the cat out of the bag, and now they're off to the Three Kings, a happening club in LA. Blair, Zoe, and Benny are hitting up the Three Kings Club, and they really want Benny to join so he doesn't escape. Benny's college friends spot him before he even enters the club. They use Benny to get in and then started making fun of him for being a driver. Blair couldn't stand them, so they grabbed Benny and started locking lips.
I'm just trying to make you look cool.
Jay and his crew were already at the club searching for the 2 girls Gio had mentioned. Inside the club, Blair and Zoe bumped into Caleb, a vampire hunter who was not alone. Within seconds, the girls found themselves surrounded by a group of guys. Right before they were going to kill them, Benny chucked a bottle of champagne at Caleb's noggin, and it totally diverted everyone's attention. Just as the girls were about to leave the club, Benny's impulsive move set them free. And guess what? Jay spotted Benny and knew it was him. Just as he was about to go after him, one of the staff members stopped him. Then Jay grabbed the knife and stabbed him in the heart. The vampire dropped and caught fire. Just as the girls and Benny were getting in the car, Jay's crew started shooting them with crossbows. They hopped in the car and Benny zoomed away while Zoe fearlessly hung her head out the window and started howling. Benny decides to help Blair and Zoe escape and let them crash at his place. Benny's grandma freaks out and demands answers right then and there because Benny has never brought a girl home before. At the moment, Jay and his crew are getting stopped by the officer on Victor's payroll. He let Jay know that Victor wants to have a chat with him at the Rossapure restaurant. Zoe was on the phone with Victor at Benny's place, and he said there's only one boss left to take down. Benny and Blair totally hit it off as the night went on. Blair feels kinda sad around Benny because she's so charming and he's so simple. So Blair used to be a regular person and had a normal life, but Zoe turned her into something else. Sometimes she wishes she could be human again. Now it's time to go to the next place, and Blair doesn't want Benny to come along because she doesn't want him to get hurt, but he's like, screw it, I'm going with you. Meanwhile, Jay's at the restaurant and he bumps into Victor. Victor had to make his final move and wanted to mess with Jay. While Victor was talking to him, Jay shot him in the head and was about to stab him in the heart, but Victor stopped him and started healing his head. Then he confessed to him that he killed Maria and cooked her meat, the same meat he was eating. Benny and the girls come to Rocco's bar, and there's this crazy dude. Poor Rocco was so confused. The three showed up out of nowhere and he looked scared, but he was just freaked. Zoe wanted to have a chat with him. Benny and Blair went outside, and then Rocco and Zoe had a drink. Zoe pulled out a knife, and meanwhile, outside, things got interesting because Benny and Blair started talking about their past. Then they started making out. In the bar, Rocco realized Zoe was there to kill him, but he managed to stop her when she tried to hit him. After that, Blair and Zoe went to war against Rocco's pals. Meanwhile, Benny hopped in the car and gave the girls a hand by ramming one of the vampire hunters. The night was done. Blair and Zoe hit their goals, but Zoe got hurt and needed blood. Benny leaves the girls at the last place and figures out it's Victor's house. Blair told him to split, but Benny won't bail on his bro. Inside, Benny found people trapped by Victor to use his food. One of them was Jay, his pal. Benny was trying to rescue Jay, but Victor caught him. Victor and Zoe said they'd kill Benny. Zoe realized she had feelings for Benny. Victor passed Zoe a knife. She got mad and smacked Blair. Benny borrowed his brother's car and used it to smash a window, letting in sunlight that ended up killing Zoe. In response, Victor attacked Benny by biting him, but Jay fought back and killed Victor by exposing him to sunlight. Benny became a vampire. Jay decided to become a vampire hunter and asked Benny to join him when things got sketchy in the city. Later, Benny met Blair for a night of drinking blood.